gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
It's time for the Early Bird Special. Bringing you the best stories from the world of sports and sports entertainment. Now, here are your hosts, Sparky and Burdick.
Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special, Hour 2. And on this Tuesday, you know what we got to get into. Our boy 24KG is in the building.
Hey, gentlemen, salutations.
Salutations, my friend. Some LA Knight in the background. It is time to run down what we saw on Raw last night, as well as get into what we'll see this weekend in a jam-packed week of wrestling. Because not only do you have one PLE this weekend for the WWE, you have two. You have one on Saturday and Sunday, not to mention a handful of others that I won't ask our friend KG about because I know he doesn't like some of the other products. But I will be partaking in the AEW All-In pay-per-view this weekend as well. Not to mention I believe the Great American Bash is this weekend for the NXT, so we'll get into that as well. But sir, how are you? How are you this week? I see you got some new lighting behind you. You got some fancy things going on at the house.
You know, we're upgrading the home studio.
I could see that.
Piece by piece. Piece by piece.
Now, obviously,
Raw and SmackDown theme-inspired lights going on right
Okay.
So it's not America?
It's not America's birthday anymore, so we can't say it's for America. No.
Raw and SmackDown, baby.
And I see the mask has convincingly disappeared. You know, where's the there he is.
I'm just in the way.
Okay. I'm just saying Lobo's mask ain't there. I wonder where he's at right now. Maybe he's wrestling a bear. We don't know.
He's probably hanging out with El Grande Americano.
At this point, let's start with that actually, because that was one of the talking points from yesterday's episode. Is obviously we got someone else donning the El Grande Americano themed setup, I guess you could best say. Who do you think it is? And obviously, how do you feel about the internet's running with this on, with Raw's upcoming matches potentially being El Grande Americano versus El Grande Americano?
Well, it is a smart strategic ploy for the viewers at home. But if you really want to nitpick with it, is this really the best that we have for Ludwig Kaiser?
And we're all in that same mindset, right? This is clearly Ludwig.
You know, this guy is skilled enough and a great enough competitor to be in the matches and up there with the Sheamuses and the Rusevs. Hell, you broke him up from Gunther to have him play somebody else that's playing somebody else. It's kind of.
I thought that saved his job.
It kind of did, though.
It kind of did, but at the same time, if we're not going to nitpick and just look at it for the product that we're getting, to see an El Grande versus an El Grande match in the
That's
future,
what everybody's building up towards
It's going
right
to be
now.
hilarious. It's definitely going to be hilarious. And I'm not going to put too much on it and say, oh, this is the best that creative has for him. You know what? In this case, I get a kick out of it. It makes sense. We've seen angles like this in the past with previous superstars.
Undertaker, Doink.
Yeah, come on, man. Sin Cara. Let's just see how it goes and, have fun doing it.
Didn't WCW do this with Sting, too, at one point? I believe they did a Sting versus Sting match. So, I mean, but I think this is a great thing for Ludwig's career because obviously.
I'm sorry, Sparky is killing me right now because we know how many times they've done this with Sting and WCW, at least 3 or 4 times.
At least. I mean, all you got to do is put on. Well, I mean, he's the Crow. So, I mean, anybody could be the Crow at that point. But going into this match, though, obviously, I'm going to say this, though. I think that this saved his career, like Sparky said, because we hadn't seen Ludwig for weeks, and he just happens to pop into the background of these, Americano PL or promos in the back. And now you're getting to see a whole different side of him as a wrestler, as more of like a luchador style wrestler, which is going to open the door for him for other situations to happen too, I think, right? Like
it's just hilarious to me to see a German wrestler playing an American wrestler who's portraying a luchador and not doing a bad job.
It's Inception.
Honestly, he did a real good job last night against Dragon Lee and Jobber Lee right now. But he's doing a lot, and I take my hat off to him. As much as it brings tears of laughter to my eyes on the concept, just the thought of this, to see it actually work on television is kind of cool, man.
It actually, it really is, but I feel bad for guys like Dragon Lee because obviously they had a lot of hype coming in when they were called up to the main roster, and now you have about a dozen luchadors on the roster that all overshadow you. I don't understand how that worked out, and that includes the guys on AAA, which haven't even been on the main roster yet. Because if you're going to sit there and tell me Mr. Iguana's hype has died, no, it has not.
You know, shout out to Corey Graves last night. I mentioned that Michael Cole dubbed him, well, according to an opinion from Conan, who's been in AAA for decades, as the WWE voice of AAA, which I was like, sensational.
Honestly, it would make a lot of sense, especially if you need a show for Corey, and obviously, McAfee's taking a little bit of a break right now. I think it's more of a breather. He'll be back with the show, I'm sure, in the next couple weeks.
Right before college football starts.
Probably. Yeah, and he'll have to leave again for college
football
football
Graves
Saturdays.
Is quite refreshing. I don't know if WWE will go back to a 3-man booth, but for now, I'm quite enjoying
Let's
Corey
talk
Graves'
about that, though,
commentary.
Because when they moved him to NXT, we were very vocal about being not very happy about the move, and we thought that they should just have a 2-team thing with Corey and Booker or Corey and Vic. Now he's getting nothing but praise for his job and what he's been able to do post complaining on the internet. Let's not forget about that entire situation. And
Indeed.
Carmella's pregnant again, just throwing that out there again. So he's got another kid on the way. So I mean,
see what happens when you give a guy a break.
That's what I'm saying. You give a guy a break, a lot of things happen.
Comes back with another kid. Okay.
So, how do you feel about this entire turnaround for him? Do you think he's kind of working his way back into the favor of the front office and potentially could be a Michael Cole for AAA?
Well, I feel like, one, he's been a constant professional over the years. Let's get that established as far as his enthusiasm and energy and knowledge of being a past wrestler that had to go down via injury. He poured himself into the commentary role. He's become quite, I'd have to say, a staple in NXT to kind of counter Booker's nonsensical energy that he throws in there. But
yeah, we're gonna call him Gooner on this show. If you're gonna call Dragon Jobber, I'm calling him Gooner. I'm sorry.
Hey, I'm going with the Gooner T on now, especially after the
the Stephanie Vicaire things. I'm like, dude, come on.
That is just that's a whole nother topic for another show,
man.
But
creepy.
But is it possible that Corey Graves has been so professional that he's been overlooked, and nonetheless Pat McAfee's sensationalism and popularity have overshadowed his actual skill set to where I think people have noticed that Pat McAfee is kind of more so just about popping Michael Cole and making him laugh here and there, when sometimes we need this brand to come off almost like how Joe Tessitore puts it, in a manner of very sportscast dialogue that seems big-ended, more so than just professional wrestling. Well, Corey Graves gives you that.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because my thought process, especially when it comes to the way they structure their teams on a media side of this, I agree with you that McAfee, in terms of being an analyst, not the greatest. But what he is really good at is the hyping. Like, he's really, really good at getting people excited. And what it really reminds me of is the old days of JR and King. Michael Cole is king. JR was always the pop. The, oh my God. Now JR threw in some great commentary here and there. Exactly. But you always need that in wrestling. You need that guy that's just going to randomly pop out there and react to the crazy thing. And that's what the crazy thing is about these teams that they've built, is that's Raw's team. SmackDown's team, if you listen to them, are very much more sports oriented. Tessitore is very it's like you're watching an actual sporting event. You have Tessitore, and then you have Wade Barrett, the former wrestler, who's also very technically savvy and loves to break down what you're looking at rather than just, oh my God, did you just see that? And then you have the third show in NXT, which is the developmental show, and even you hear that on their team, because Vic and Booker and Corey are all very good at showing not only that they are developing their own skills, but at the fact that these guys that you're watching in the ring are going to mess up and that they're going to have developmental moments themselves. So I think that that's a really good thing that the WWE has been able to do to grow the product, is that it all comes from the commentary section of it. You know what I mean?
I agree with you. Chris, most definitely. And also, just to throw in to the viewers that might not realize, I think one of the reasons that SmackDown sounds the way it does is because it's an affiliate of Fox currently right now,
Yes.
which has huge broadcasting tentacles in every form of media.
100%. And they will continue to do that. I mean, it's Fox Sports, and that's what they do best. But that's why I agree with you 100%. It's the fact that that one's on television, while Raw is traditionally on Netflix now for almost everybody. And obviously NXT is just on CW at the moment, but I'm sure they'll move up to some sort of bigger platform at some point once this product gets bigger. But I'm also glad that you brought up that Corey might just be somebody who's a victim of just doing his job entirely too well as a professional.
Yeah,
because
it happens.
The next step of our conversation where I'm going with this is another man who has been very vocal about being too much of a jobber and too much of somebody who just bends over for the bosses and is now getting the pleas and the cries from the fans, as you saw last night. But Karrion Kross finally getting the calls from WWE. The rumors are that not only his contract will be extended, but his wife Scarlett's contract will also be extended into the next couple years. Do you think this means a push is finally coming for Karrion? And do you think it's coming at the expense of Sami Zayn? And I'll explain that afterwards.
Well, yes and no. The yes, as in the push finally coming, it's deserved. You know, last night we heard the fans in the arena really chanting for "We Want Kross" during a segment that they ended up putting on their social media.
Mm-hmm.
It garnished more views, and almost, it hasn't been 24 hours yet, almost than more of their usual segments from those clips. And he had a real Jack Nicholson type of shining energy when he said, "Well, you got me."
Mm-hmm.
And I was very happy to see that they acknowledged that. And nonetheless, the pop was as equal, if not louder, for when he hit Sami with the pipe. Maybe Sami has some time coming off. We don't know how they have him written or positioned in this storyline that's developing between Seth Rollins' faction and his own, ascension towards a world title shot. But implementing Karrion Kross as a speed bump for him, I think, is just, it makes sense. Now, what are we going to do with Karrion Kross, who he's going to feud with after this? How he'll be positioned is questionable, but to at least see this acknowledgement happen on TV, real time, with the fans, goes to show that WWE is listening more than people might assume.
I have to agree with you. Spark, do you have any thoughts as well before I jump in?
I'm loving it. I just I want to see Karrion against like McIntyre or somebody like that, maybe Orton.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because
some established names would be nice to see.
I know you have yet to watch the full episode. KG, I don't know if you got to watch the full episode, but here's why I think it's going to come at the expense of Sami Zayn. Obviously, we have built this Sami feud between him and Karrion for quite some time, including letting Sami beat Karrion at one point. And they have built Sami up to this main eventer, right? Last night, they shelved him. Sami is now out indefinitely after the match with Braun Breaker and being attacked by Karrion Kross with the steel pipe. So he is no longer going to be a part of the show for an indefinite amount of time. The first person that brought up his name afterwards was Braun Breaker. What are we going to do about Karrion Kross? Now we are going to get Karrion Kross most likely in the crosshairs of Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins' faction, and with the credit of taking down who I believe the WWE sees as a main eventer in Sami Zayn. I think this is going to be a straight trajectory for Karrion, at least into the mid-card conversation, if not the main card conversation. And to do that, all he has to do is go through an entire feud with Seth's group. If Karrion Kross can walk in and say, "I tell the truth about everything, and you three aren't going to last. The three of you are going to tear each other apart. You don't like each other already. We've seen it last week. You yelled at Bronson right after you gave Bronson a microphone to tell everybody why he's in the group. And you had the audacity to go after him and say, you have to finish your job." And he just like he did with the New Day, rips that entire group apart. We get him skyrocketing towards the main event card. We get the Braun Breaker versus Seth Rollins feud, which is eventually going to happen out of this.
Oh, we seen shades of that last night.
Exactly. And I think this is all going to start coming to a head because, again, although a lot of hate comes towards Triple H when it comes to not pushing these guys, I do believe Karrion Kross is one of Triple H's guys. And I think at the end of this story, at the end of Karrion's story, which he mentioned last week, no one ever asks about his story. I think at the end of this story for Karrion Kross, you're going to see probably the greatest long burn storyline of Triple H's career.
Yeah, he's been at it since the beginning of the Bloodline inception with Roman Reigns upon his
the
return.
Hourglass thing, and then they fell apart. Every single group that Karrion Kross has come in contact with has dissolved right after he tells them they're going to dissolve, and I think that's on purpose. I think
am I the only one that's really happy about this? Like,
no, I'm
this
excited,
guy
dude.
has sprinkled over 5 years. I have been saying it
for weeks, dude. You can go back in our clips. I mean, the Devil on Randy's shoulder clip that we made months ago. I've been saying this forever. Karrion Kross could play the perfect devil in the WWE. I'm
glad to see him beating these internet rumors of him, like his work rate. You know what I mean? That was, I don't know where that started.
Which is ridiculous.
You know, whoever did that. It's one thing to get storylines or clickbait, but to attack somebody's work rate just for views, like shame on some of those hosts that created that narrative out there. And
I don't even know if it's the
internet.
host, brother. It's the internet in general. I think that
dirt sheet journalists and stuff like that looking for stuff.
Exactly. When you're desperately looking for an answer and it doesn't make sense to you, you're going to cling to the first thing that does, which it's the easiest thing that people can think of. That's why I hate when I hear people will say like, oh, they botched a move too much, or they don't take bumps. There's not a professional wrestler on the planet that doesn't take a bump outside of maybe Goldberg. And you're going to see him take a few of them on Saturday.
I sure hope so.
I hope so. I'm right with you on that with Spark.
Yes.
I want to see crap splatter out his tights. He gets chopped
and
so
honestly,
hard.
that's what I'm saying, though. Is like, I don't believe that any of these wrestlers, including guys like Karrion Kross, Jimmy Uso, all these people that the internet are saying, oh, he doesn't take bumps. He refuses to take back bumps. Knock it off. These guys put their body on the line every single day they're in that ring. I'm not going to sit there and say any of them won't take a bump. Because if they won't take a bump, they wouldn't be on the roster.
If you think about it, if Mae Young was taking bumps at 76 years old, I'm pretty sure Karrion Kross has no problem
Nice
taking
pull.
a bump in his 30s.
Well, speaking of Saturday night's
Bubba
main
Ray's
event,
still staring off in the distance
they've
after
got
that.
Goldberg and Gunther, as well as the LA Knight and Seth Rollins, which they seasoned last night. Do we see a LA Knight upset?
God, I would hope so, because he's another guy like Karrion Kross that I feel like needs a little bit of a boost. I think they haven't used him enough.
I would think, honestly, maybe under a different regime, you would see the leader of a faction take a loss to a rising or consistent superstar like LA Knight. In this case, not necessarily. Yes, LA Knight is over. Yes, LA Knight has no problem securing any position in the mid card. But what we're going to see, I don't think it's going to be a clean finish.
No.
It's just to protect him, not like he needs it, but to ensure his longevity of camaraderie with the fans. And, he didn't get his fair shot. Writing-wise, we're going to see some interference.
Can I interject, though? Because I believe, because this match was random. This match came out of nowhere. The Seth and LA Knight match came out of nowhere, okay?
I was like, okay.
It was a slight build at Money in the Bank, now. But like it came out of nowhere. I believe this is the setup for War Games. I think this is going to be the first step in Team CM Punk against Team Seth Rollins at War Games.
You're talking money.
I think, especially after the interaction you saw last week between LA Knight and CM Punk, when the two of them looked at each other and said, you got in my business. Like, I don't care about your business. This is my business. I'm going to go handle my thing. The two of them don't hate each other and are obviously willing to get on the same page to end whoever they need to end. So I think you're right. I don't think this ends clean. I think Seth has the boys come out and probably manhandle LA Knight. And then to save him, unlike he was able to save Sammy, Punk comes out, intervenes, and then we get this entire setup of probably CM Punk, I would think LA Knight, Jey Uso and a handful of two other guys against
Penta.
Seth's entire group. Yeah, Penta most likely on that group as well, of like the uprising superstars of the WWE. Maybe even Karrion jumps in as the fifth man for CM Punk.
Do you think we get a special appearance from Roman Reigns possibly?
Well, that's what I was just going to bring up. We got a
Because they
text.
name dropped him.
We
a
got a
couple
text right when we started saying, when is Roman coming back and where do you guys see him?
It could happen on Saturday. It definitely could, but it would be either Team Roman against Team Seth or Team Punk against Team Seth. And I think Team Punk makes more sense than Team Roman.
Especially, it would be a great flip, seeing as how Punk joined Roman's team last time.
And
it
maybe
only makes sense to have Roman join Punk's team this time.
That's entirely possible as well. I didn't really take that into consideration either. Maybe instead of Jay, they have Roman on the group, because I think Jay also is on his way, much like Sammy, to have a short rest after his long run as the champion. So I think that we're going to see him take a step aside as well. But I didn't consider Roman jumping in on that team, though. That's a good pull. I think that's a possibility.
Well, after they brought him up in the beginning of Raw last night, I was like, okay, he's coming. He's coming soon.
Yeah, you don't name drop wrestlers unless you know they're coming. And honestly, when Braun had his entire moment, he says, I can't stand his song, and you guys singing it, and then he had that little crash out moment.
Yeah,
I thought for sure that was a mess up, thinking, oh, here comes Sammy. And no, and they're going to let him continue on the mic. Okay, never mind. That was one of the weirdest opening promos I've seen.
I don't mean to interrupt, but honestly, what I paid attention to last night, after kind of watching it back and really taking it in, you've got Paul Heyman there, the greatest talker in the history of wrestling as of right now.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. You don't want these guys to be background players. This is not a rehashing of Evolution where you just had Batista standing there looking like he could break you with his bicep, or Randy Orton, cocky and smug or whatnot, but almost the same as far as roles being filled. But allowing these guys to talk and get off to the audience, so to speak, really, like how you, by design, took all the words out of Seth Rollins' mouth. He didn't have to say anything other than welcome to the show. And what needed to be said, I think Breaker put the intensity stamp down on promos he's able to cut, his ability and just trusting him with the mic. And nonetheless, Bronson Reed isn't bad either.
No.
This was the first time I really got to see him talk. And being in that tree, because they give Rollins sometimes way too much time. He goes on and on and on.
No, he's Australian.
This is the first time last night.
New Zealand. He's
New
from
Zealand. Yeah, he's actually from New Zealand.
The first time last night was the first time I've seen him do an extended promo.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, he's got an accent?
Yeah, he has an accent.
Yeah, and he's really good, actually.
Yeah, he was.
In MLW, he did a feud with Jacob Fatu, which was amazing.
Yeah,
so if you guys want to go and look at that on YouTube, go right ahead for reference.
But honestly,
nonetheless, I was kind of impressed, because at first I was like, you guys got Paul Heyman. Why are you doing this? And then once it sat on me, I was like, yo, that was pretty damn impressive.
Right. And honestly, that's been a talking point from a lot of people, is that why do they not let Paul talk for this group? He's obviously the mouthpiece, and he's the greatest at doing it in wrestling history. But I think it's because, like you just said, all these guys can. They could all talk for themselves. It's not a Brock Lesnar-like situation where Brock was not very good on a mic.
Roman only had to talk in really quotes. You know what I mean? When he had Paul
Exactly.
Heyman.
And Roman,
that's it.
Roman's early days, he wasn't good on a mic either. He got better over time. But I think that's the beauty of being a Heyman guy, is that he is teaching you how to be good on a mic at the same time. He is teaching Seth, Braun, and Bronson all, even though they probably don't need the help, especially guys like Seth Rollins, does not need the help. He's one of the best on a microphone. But if you can even have a month or two under this guy and learn the art of cutting a promo, can you imagine what Braun Breaker's promos are going to be like in about 3 years after this whole run with Paul Heyman are done? And
can you also just factor in the fact that when Paul Heyman retires and they have him working a promo class at
they probably already do.
If there's
Can
you
anybody
imagine
on
what that generation is going to be like?
Dude, if there's anybody I'm having teach my young guys how to cut a promo, it's Paul Heyman. It's 1,000% Paul Heyman. But we're running out of time. We've got to get to Saturday night's main event and Evolution real quick. We talked about it last week. There's going to be the Women's Royal Rumble for the Evolution situation. We made our predictions last week. Any other predictions you want to make before this pay-per-view on Sunday? And I believe, and I just throwing this out there, I don't not sure what time it is, but I believe this will be mid-afternoon, late afternoon, right? It's some situation.
I believe so.
So have you heard
for Saturday night's main event or Evolution?
No, Evolution. Saturday night's main event is definitely
and they've
at
got
5 o'clock.
7 matches.
Yes, this is going to be a long one. Do you think this is going to work out though? Because from what I keep seeing and from what I've read up on is that ticket prices are not great.
No, I hope it works, honestly, because sometimes, these shows fill up last minute, but there's a lot going on that day. There's an AEW pay-per-view. There's a Beyonce concert adjacent to the arena that they're holding this women's wrestling pay-per-view in. There's a lot of things that could take away from the draw of this event that, corporate needs to be worried about as far as that. But nonetheless, a successful show, yes. I think it's barely going to eke by, but there are going to be some future discussions about how they will present it in the future. Now, with Saturday night's main event, I just want to see Goldberg crap his shorts.
Me too.
I think that's everybody at this point.
And Evolution's at 3:30.
Piss down his leg.
Yeah, it was just...
piss down his leg, crap up his back, laying on the mat, looking at the lights.
I just hope
what just happened?
Gunther gets him for a while. I hope he beats him for 15, 20 minutes.
Is it weird, though, that this is essentially just Saturday night's main event is an all-male PLE now, and if Evolution's an all-female PLE now?
Oh, I thought you were going to say it's elderly abuse. Because
it is elderly abuse. This is 1,000. You are going to be witnessing elderly abuse on Saturday, 110%.
And what was the other match? We've only got 3 matches for Saturday night.
So far, they've only announced 3 matches.
You're going to get one or two on most likely Friday.
Yeah,
we got McIntyre and Orton, which is going to be a great bounce back for Drew McIntyre. I cannot wait to see him back in the ring. Obviously, we talked about Goldberg and Gunther, which everybody's hoping Goldberg just gets sent out on a stretcher. And then the Seth Rollins and LA Knight match. Which other matches do you think we should see on Saturday?
We should at least get some type of
I think Karrion deserves a match on Saturday night.
And I think we'll get the Fatu and Uso against Solo and JC, or maybe one of the other guys.
Tala Tonga and Tongaloa.
Which
we might get what's the other one? Tama
Tonga.
He might come back, so hopefully I also found out what my what's that MFT stands for.
MFT. Oh, his the right hand man. What the actual term is?
Well, no, it's actually my family tree. Yeah, my family tree. So it doesn't. The whole feud that they had with the Ulafala and whatnot, so they don't encroach upon how important that was. I believe this splinter faction, we're no longer going under the Bloodline moniker. It is now the family tree. So,
honestly, that fits better, to be honest, especially after the situation that The Rock and all them did a couple years ago for WrestleMania with the big old family tree and everybody.
Yeah, they're a rogue Samoan branch.
It makes a lot of sense. And honestly, again, I'm standing by this, but Solo Sikoa as the Samoan Godfather just works. It works.
Hey, the man has grown as a character rapidly, and personally, I think he's one of the funniest guys.
He really is.
When he's being serious, like serious, like threatening, that I've seen in a while on WWE television.
At the end of all of this, dude, I gotta say, I think he really is gonna have the talent of his brother Jay and the humor of his brother Jimmy, and this is just gonna be the best of both Usos. It really is, dude. Like, I think Solo has a very, very bright future going forward. But before we let you go, sir, you had some homework to do over the week. We chose our female for the LFG champion, and you got an extra week on us. So have you made your decision who is going to be your women's wrestler for the LFG champion?
Nah, I'm not interested.
What?
I'm just gonna keep my eggs on the Holyfield kid. And my eye
looked fantastic.
On Shiloh. You know what I mean? Like,
those
seriously?
two's match, dude, this past week on LFG was fantastic. I think you're onto something, though, dude. Elijah, Evander's son, he's a natural, dude. He is a genuine natural in the ring. Beast. He looks like a monster.
One thing I do want to say that surprised the golly hell out of me is the return of BJ Ray on Bubba Ray's team. Oh my God!
cannot stand
Hey,
that kid.
LFG is cooking though.
Hear me
They
out
know
on
what's
this,
up.
though. I give Drake Monroe, who is the boyfriend of Roxanne Perez and is a wrestler in his own right, fantastic wrestler. I cheered when he did that. I'm
Yeah.
not going to lie to you. When
he
Bubba
stood
Ray
on
came
business.
down to his two guys from last year and he said, "You ready to do this again?" I'd be like, nah.
Yeah.
You chose
Yeah.
that kid over me last year. Choose him
And
again.
look what he did. Look what he did.
Yeah,
to
he
you.
didn't win it. He didn't win. You Jack Diddley. You would have chose me.
Yeah.
We would have won. But no, you chose him. So choose him
Yeah.
again. That's where I'm
Hey,
at with it too.
I honestly was like, now I hope standing on business don't come back to bite him in the butt.
That's what
But
I'm saying, too.
good for him.
But
Good
no,
for
dude,
him.
learning from the greatest big man to ever step foot in a ring in The Undertaker, ain't no
wouldn't?
way Drake Monroe is gonna it made a wrong decision in this situation.
Come on now, Undertaker's team is looking is pretty stacked right
And
now.
also, I gotta throw this out there just because Shiloh Hill scared the crap out of me, but I was very, very worried. If you haven't followed Shiloh Hill on social media, I've been telling you guys for weeks that he has this entire run with the dark web that he does. And he was doing
it's
this
great.
thing
It's great character work
with
right now.
the Schumann. There's this really weird story that he's been in the middle of, and they sent it took a very dark turn yesterday when he gave us an update, and he actually said, "I'm ending the series. Like, this got way too real for me." So there was a moment where I was like, "Oh God, is Shiloh gonna have to go into hiding because he messed around with the dark web too much? What's going on?" He got sent
man.
bloody boots, dude. Bloody boots with the phone of the guy he was texting. That's wild. That's some horror movie stuff right there.
If not, nonetheless, a way to end the series on a cliffhanger that has everybody like, oh my God, he did this so well to where it's like, that's what the company looks for. You to generate interest outside of just being
not even
on
just that,
camera.
dude.
It's an invested stake in your character.
Imagine
which I think
this
he's doing a great
being-
job of.
Imagine this being the start or a promo for a found footage horror movie that he's a part of.
Come on now.
You know what I mean?
I can see this being turned into an A24 film.
Exactly. Or something like that where they take it and they're like, "Hey, we want to make this a horror film. Even though it didn't take place afterwards, we'd love to just make something up and have you be the center of it." And that
You've
would
got
be
a lot
huge
of
for his career.
wrestlers going into film right now, especially on the fly. I don't know what's going to happen with Cody Rhodes' schedule being drafted.
We said,
cast as Guile.
"Hey,
in
look,
Street
dude,
Fighter.
that's 2 wrestlers that have been picked up by that show, by that movie."
I'm still hoping for Tiffany Stratton.
I was
as,
just about to bring that up.
Tammy.
Your prediction of Tiffany Stratton jumping in this film as well, it doesn't seem very far off, but we'll see what we will see in the next couple of weeks. We got to take a break, though, pay some bills. My guy, thank you once again for your time, as always, and we will talk to you next week.
Yes, sir. You guys take care, and more to come on the Early Bird Special, you guys. Salutations.
Salutations, my friend. We got to take a break real quick, pay some bills. This is the Early Bird Special on 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Vegas.